Australia's retail recession continues to grow. Let's have a look. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Florian Heise, and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. I've got my cup of coffee, the Stein's getting clean, and I thought we'd have a look at this article about Kmart and the continuing growth of the retail recession here in Australia. So Kmart, if you're not familiar, is another general purpose retailer, department store. They also have got their tire services and other things, but they're a pretty old-fashioned type of department store. So warning signs for Kmart: Big W, Myer and David Jones. We've talked about Myer, we've talked about David Jones. Big W and Kmart are similar. So Australia's population is booming. Well, yes, we've seen that before, 25% since 2020. Australian prices keep getting higher. Australia's economy is in its third decade of continuous recession-free growth. Fantastic, but what's that growth been based on? What's that growth been based on? That's what you have to ask. Our economy now has actually become less advanced. I'll bring this one over here from the Observatory of Economic Complexity. I suggest you all have a look at it. Up here in the top left, you can see we've got the economic complexity ranking. And just look at how that's changed for Australia over time. And that shows you what we produce, what we manufacture, what we bring in, because we're a primary, probably a tier one, should we say, tier one economy with what we're producing. We're producing a lot of raw products that are manufactured and turned into products where value is added overseas, not here in Australia. So that and our real estate boom, which according to every real estate agent, it's still going strong. So yeah. But there's one thing that is not keeping up with all this growth: the grand old institutions of Australian retail. Department stores are some of the oldest businesses in Australia. Myer was born in 1900, David Jones in 1838, Target 1926, and Kmart in 1968 are old compared to Uniqlo. Never heard of that one. But those department stores are now struggling. Discount ones and fancy ones alike. Just last week, David Jones' new owner wrote down its value by $437 million, admitting the business is not worth as much as they thought. Have they just missed the boat? Online shopping and Amazon makes such a big difference. A lot of smaller people are getting into that space. I guess the bigger ones just can't compete. It's a different world. The retail sector in Australia is currently in recession, said a spokesman for Woolworths South Africa, which bought David Jones in 2014. And just so people know, the Woolworths South Africa is not the Woolworths here in Australia. They're different organisations. The write-down in David Jones sent a shiver through Myer shareholders, who also moved to sell the stock, causing Myer's share price fall, further reversing what looked like some promising rises earlier in the year. So what went wrong? I wonder. Let's see what they tell us. Australia-wide department stores are selling about the same volume of goods as they did 10 years ago. Looking at the next graph, you can see that something happened in 2009. Sales growth gave up one day and never came back. Yeah, the GFC happened in 28, didn't it? In 2008? You can see here. Department stores, clothing and footwear stores. Boom, 2009. Was it the internet? Perhaps department stores made most sense in another era, one where researching products was more difficult, so shoppers favoured a single shop with immense range. Certainly, if you look at retail these days, retailers with well-defined offerings are often doing well. For example, JB Hi-Fi for electronics, Aldi for cheap groceries, Bunnings for things you put in the shed, etc. In this era, it is hard for department stores to stay relevant. That's not to say department store brands are going to disappear. True. We had people commenting that they can't remember the last time they went into a David Jones or into a Myer. I don't know. I'm probably not the demographic anymore. I have to ask Rachel. She goes to Kmart every now and then for kids stuff. Kids clothes are so cheap. Cheaper than to manufacture them yourself, and she can. So, in this era, it's hard for department stores to stay relevant. That's not to say department stores' brands are going to disappear forever, and I've already read that again. An end to growth doesn't necessarily mean an end to department stores. Unlike in the US, where just last week, iconic department store Barney's announced it was considering declaring bankruptcy, our department stores are hanging on. Well, yeah, just compare the presence of online shopping in the United States to Australia. I mean, come on, guys. Just how Amazon's only been here a very short time in Australia. Very short time. Department stores are still selling $1.5 billion worth of stuff each month. It's just that seeing as how the country is much bigger and richer, that represents a smaller and smaller amount sold to each of us. Myers sales from the first half of the financial year are 7% lower than they were in the same period 10 years ago. They're still making profit on those sales. The only problem is the profit is 65% lower. Well, there you go. Empty shop fronts. Yes, I think a lot of people have commented on seeing that, just the retail sector in general, lots of empty shop fronts. We were in Brisbane today. We were in the other side of the mall. And Queen Street Mall, it was still quite busy, but you jump one over. We were visiting Office Works, buying school supplies, and lots of empty shops, lots of places for lease. Near where we had our first ever office above a JB Hi-Fi and a shared communal office space. It was all dead. So, while we can expect department stores to continue as an idea, that does not mean each individual department store will hang on. You may find a vacant space appearing at your local mall soon. Take Big W, for example. Big W is owned by Woolworths, the same company that owns Woolworths Supermarkets, and until recently owned Dan Murphy's. That's not the same South African Woolworths that owns David Jones. At some point in ancient history, both companies apparently took the name of a well-known US retailer, itself called Woolworths, and then both separately went on to become retail behemoths. Oh, there you go. Not surprised. I mean, here, yeah, former Big W store in Broken Hill, completely empty. And that's a sign I should use one of those images as my thumbnail. Perhaps I will. But it just shows you where it's all heading. Big W is not going perfect just now. It is expected to report a loss before interest and tax of 80 to 100 million this financial year, and Woolworths is starting to shut down stores. Plans for 30 Big W stores to close over the next 3 years. That said, comparable sales were up 6% in the most recent quarter, so there may be life in the discount retailer yet, or perhaps that could be with the tax return that only certain people managed to get, although everyone thought they were getting, which I thought was quite funny. The story of Kmart is the most important one in all of department stores. It was the one bright, shining light for a long time. Kmart sales surged as people went Kmart crazy. Really? There were whole ecosystems of Facebook groups full of competing Kmart hacks. Really? And that's a sign of retail success? Isn't having, footprint and return, not Facebook groups? Maybe I'm just too old-fashioned. And then the growth stopped. In the most recent trading update, Kmart's comparable sales fell 0.2%. Kmart is still opening new stores, but not getting much more magic from them. If Kmart is going to follow the rest of the pack, that could be the new norm, which will be worrying a lot of people. Sales not going up much, but not going down either. Well, that's interesting. An interesting take from Jason Murphy. I mean, let's have a look at, consumer confidence here. Consumer confidence, business confidence, trending down. GDP growth, trending down. Philip Lowe, Governor of the Reserve Bank, has reduced forecasts for GDP growth in the next few quarters. So what do you think will happen to retail spending? It will decrease. It will certainly decrease. 20% of our foreign exports is iron ore. It's gone down too, guys. It's gone down too. That will all have effect and will all flow through the economy. I think this retail recession is just the beginning of Australia hitting an official recession. That's what I think. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining me for this episode. Like, share, and subscribe. Ding the bell to see my daily updates. And I'll talk to you all later. Take care.